trend in societies. And I mean, in a way, Snapchat has also challenged you a little bit at the beginning by focusing on a more ephemeral product here. But my question is, I mean, I remember when we have met first time in 2006 in Berlin, clearly you were not very focused on privacy, and I fully understand that.
The man you just watched lecture a sentient robot is Mathias Döpfner, the CEO of Axel Springer, which is one of the largest media companies on the planet. It's a European publishing house that owns some of the most circulated European newspapers and owns a stake in multiple recognized brands. In 2015, it bought Business Insider at a $442 million valuation, which also eventually gave them access to Morning Brew, one of the most successful American business newsletters with over 3 million subscribers. Springer was also the joint owner of Politico EU, and just the day before yesterday, it was announced that they would also buy Politico US for $1 billion, putting a European company in charge of one of the most influential Washington news organizations. Springer's reach in Europe mainly stems from its ownership of two German media outlets, Die Bild and Die Welt. Die Bild is the most circulated European tabloid and has often been criticized for being sensationalized, while the latter, Die Welt, is a highly circulated, more sober conservative newspaper. Besides owning a number of brands, what makes Springer unique is that it is a European media company that, instead of failing in the digital revolution, prospered. With the advent of the internet, digital content increased and publishing houses faced serious cutbacks in revenue as their main source of capital, newspapers, declined. For example, in 2014, El País, one of Spain's daily newspapers, saw its advertising income drop by around 60%, and they responded by firing nearly 1/3 of their workforce. These trends were near universal, and multiple European countries saw dramatic reductions in newspaper publishing revenues. Although Axel Springer did initially lose revenue, unlike others, they adapted.
But if you look at, for instance, the New York Times has been wonderfully successful, the digital newspaper. And yet their revenues from digital, the growth of revenues from digital advertising, does not match the decline in circulation and advertising for the print newspaper.
Okay.
How do you get more than 1/10? How do you get such a large rate of return?
Well, to be very clear, through a quite dramatically changed portfolio. I mean, we sold most of our newspapers, we sold most of our magazines. We basically sold our entire print portfolio and we replaced it through fast-growing digital assets. Hadn't we done that, would we simply basically reduced to our original portfolio, our P&L, our revenue structures would look completely different. The company would be probably a no-growth or negative growth company and would still be largely dominated by a sharply declining print business.
Döpfner led a charge to focus on paid content, marketing, and the classified ad business. Under his lead, the company was ruthless in selling off different, badly performing newspapers, and he pushed heavily for increasing investment in digital content, which set the groundwork for a future revenue stream that would mainly be driven by digital subscriptions, when at first, digital subscriptions made little to no revenue at all. Döpfner also engaged in somewhat unconventional tactics, like sending German executives to Silicon Valley to learn from American entrepreneurs. The combination of all these changes meant that Axel Springer saw a growth in its stock price and revenue, whereas others went bankrupt or relied on expensive donors. In 2021, Axel Springer's purchase of Politico US also represents the bet that the European media company is making for the future, that English content has a larger potential for scale, and that digital content cannot survive off of advertising alone, and media companies with loyal subscription followings are the future of sustainable publications.